this practice where you have to give kindness towards yourself first, I found this incredibly difficult. When I walked into the rooms of meditation and Buddhism, I was in the hell realm of addiction, and I found this incredibly difficult. And so in my recovery, when I was able to kind of be more in a human realm and set out that hell realm, I developed a practice called the 5 basic needs of the heart. These aren't my ideas. You can find books called the 4 basic needs of the heart or the 5 basic needs of the heart. And I've just found it just really powerful, because actually for some of us, we didn't even realize that it was okay to like ourselves, to appreciate ourselves. And the thing is that we know, don't we, that those of you who perhaps have had loving family members or loving friends who have really wanted you to have your recovery, and it hasn't been enough. Yeah, I often tell relatives, and just because you give people all this love, it's not enough necessarily for people to have their recovery, to put down their choice of compulsive behavior or addiction. And the reason why it isn't enough is because we have to learn to give attention to ourselves. We have to learn to appreciate ourselves. We have to learn to give ourselves affection. Yeah, and we have to learn acceptance. So we're just going to do this short practice. So just, you can lie down, you can sit down, and just really going to ask you to really, especially if your screen is off, is to please not have this as an opportunity to multitask. I know that. I'm saying that because I'm somebody, I can be at something and it's like, oh, a ping goes on my phone and blah, blah, blah. So really want you to take this next 15 minutes for yourself. Okay. So you can have your eyes open, you can have your eyes closed. Yeah. And just allowing yourself to arrive. Attention. Paying attention to the self. One of the ways that we begin to pay attention is just noticing what the body is touching. So noticing your feet. Noticing your feet touching your socks or stockings or your shoe or the floor. Just really noticing. Noticing where your hands are. Just noticing. Noticing what your hands are touching. And see if you can notice the air touching your hands. Noticing your sitting bones or your legs, noticing clothing touching your legs. And if you're actually sitting, you might even notice the pressure of your sitting bones against your buttocks. And remember to breathe. And just noticing the torso. Yeah, maybe I haven't gone through the whole body, but maybe you can take a few seconds to just touch into the parts of the body and just noticing parts of the body. Body like mountain, just as a mountain is strong, firm, and present. Allow your body to be strong, firm, and present in this practice. heart like ocean, just as the waves in an ocean arise and cease. Allow your emotions and feelings to arise and cease. Thoughts like clouds, just as we get dark clouds and bright clouds, and clouds pass and come. Allow yourself to have the dark thoughts and bright thoughts, and just know that these thoughts pass. They come by and they pass. We don't have to hold on to these dark thoughts and think they're permanent. They will change, just like the clouds in the sky. Mind like sky, just as the sky is wide and open. Allow the mind to be wide and open too, so it doesn't hold on to anything. And now connecting to the breath. Breath like anchor, just as the anchor steadies a boat. Allow your breath to steady the body, to steady thoughts and feelings. And just now taking a moment as you pay attention to the heart mind, just paying attention to what it is that you are feeling or experiencing right now. There could be contraction, and that's okay, or there could be expansion. Just noticing. And we're going to move into affection. Notice what happens to the body when I say affection. Notice if there's some contraction, some tension. Just notice and breathe. Don't need to judge it. There's an opportunity to just cultivate some attention towards ourselves. If we're able to, really see if you can see yourself in your mind's eye. Those of you who have your cameras on, you could take a moment and just look at yourself, and just look at yourself with affection, and really see if you can have a smile on your face. And just look at yourself with affection. Yeah. Really holding yourself with affection, metaphorically leaning into your arms with affection. And just remembering we haven't always been this big. We haven't always been this age. Yeah, so we're going to have the sense of holding a newborn being in our arms. Tiny puppy, tiny kitten, tiny baby. And really feel the weight in your lap, even if you can't see it. Just feel the weight of holding a tiny being. And as we begin to connect to this tiny being is us. We have not always been this age, this size. So really connecting to this tiny, vulnerable being that we were once. This being that actually was impacted by family conditioning. This being that was impacted by growing up in a dysfunctional household. This being that experienced trauma, just holding this being with affection. And just let it know that you are there for this being right now. And holding it with affection. Really just an invitation to place your hand upon your heart or upon your belly and have the sense of integrating this tiny being into your whole being, putting this tiny one in a safe place, be that your heart, or it could be something external in your belly, but putting this tiny being in a safe place and letting it know that you are there for this tiny one. Affection. And just notice if there are tears, there are tears. So what? That's okay. Allow the tears to flow. And if it feels too much, you can move your head side to side. You can get up and stand and walk. If there's a sense of flooding or overwhelm, yeah. We're moving to some appreciation. Appreciation of who we are today. Every one of you here right now are doing something about your recovery. You're here right now in this meeting. Yeah, so let go of what you were doing before you came or what you were doing a week ago and just acknowledge that you have taken the time to be here and to do something about your recovery. That is worth appreciating yourself for. So really see if you can find other things to appreciate yourself for. I think those of you who've had long-term recovery appreciate that. Those of you who perhaps are chronic relapsers, I once was a chronic relapser and I didn't appreciate myself every time I got back on track. So yeah, we can appreciate ourselves for that rather than beating ourselves up. Yeah. Those of you perhaps who are doing harm reduction, appreciate yourself for that. This is your recovery plan, your recovery program, and it's important for you to take agency. Only we can acknowledge if what we're doing isn't working. And that is worth appreciating ourselves for when we get to the point what we're doing for our recovery isn't working and we need to do something different. So really sitting with appreciation towards the self. And breathe. Remember to breathe. And moving into acceptance. Yes, acceptance. And acceptance isn't resignation. Acceptance is just being in the moment now, of actually recognizing there is absolutely nothing we can do about the past. The past has gone. We can't change the past. Yes, we can make amends, and we cannot, if somebody doesn't want to forgive us, even if we make the amends, we have to accept that. But we can't rewrite the past. And we have absolutely no control with the future. Yeah. What we have is now, and the next now will impact the next now. So what we do now will have an impact on the next now. We don't know what that will look like, but we know that actions do have consequences, which can be positive or negative. And so when we move into acceptance, we accept this moment now, this person who is listening to me, who is in front of their flat screen. That's who we accept now. Yeah, we don't have to struggle and try and accept the person who we were 5 years ago or a year ago or a week ago. We just have to accept this person now. Acceptance is in the now. 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 now, now. Yeah. Just really see if you can drop into this moment now. Yeah. So this is so powerful, this teaching of acceptance. In Buddhism, we talk about one breath at a time. Yeah. Yeah. And as my partner says, it's not a relapse. We pick up, and in the next moment, we can put it back down. So in that moment that we pick up, we can always do something in the next moment, and we can put it back down in the now. So really appreciating that we have this moment of now where we can do something that will support our recovery. Yeah. Sometimes in that now we do something which doesn't support our recovery. And yet in the next moment, we can do something different. So we always have now, now, now. Now moving into allowing, just allowing anything to arise, just allowing, just sitting with me, not saying anything for a minute and just allowing, tuning into whatever is arising without pushing it away and without identifying with it. And as we begin to bring this practice to a close, it's an invitation now for you to turn your cameras on, and we're just going to look at each other. This is one of the great things about Zoom. If we was in a room, it would be in giggles, but we have no idea who's looking at us. And I just really want you to look at each other and witness each other and just look at each other with kindness. So you're receiving the warmth and kindness, and you're giving warmth and kindness. And just looking at each other. Yeah. Yeah. Taking each other in. Really appreciating each other for being on the path of recovery, because we support each other. Yeah. And even if you haven't been able to turn your cameras on, just know that we are looking at your names and really sending you warmth and kindness. Yeah. Yeah, and taking a deep breath in and expanding the breathing throughout your whole body. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today. It's very lovely to be your guest speaker at your meeting today. Yeah. And the title that we had was, what was it? What was the title? Always have people always ask way back, give us a title. But I think the title was trauma, a normal response to addiction, or addiction, a normal response to trauma. Addiction, a normal response to trauma. Yeah, yeah. And that's where I'm at the moment, because as we know, our addictive and compulsive behaviors have been things that have protected us. Yeah, definitely they've been protectors. I think sometimes we can really give ourselves a hard time for having certain behaviors. And what we have to remember is that these things actually protected us. For some of us, it kept us alive. And we know in keeping us alive that we have lost people. We have lost people on the way. Yeah. So definitely, you know, why do I say addiction is a normal response? You know, for many of us, we weren't able to do healthy attachment to the people who raised us. Yeah. And when we can't do healthy attachment to the people who raised us, we begin to attach to substances and to behaviors. Yeah. And that's why one of the reasons why I say it's a normal response, even for myself. I had no healthy attachments to adults. Yeah. And so I started a very long, I think my first addictive behavior was actually shoplifting. That was my first, shoplifting and sniffing shoe conditioner. Yeah. So you can imagine how young I was. Yeah. That attachment. Yeah. Something that gave me joy. Yeah. Because I wasn't able, there was nobody there who I could healthily attach to. Yeah. And one of the things that I want to share with you, what I normally do is I like people to ask me questions. But one of the things that I want to share with you is a teaching that really opens up my heart. There's, in all cultures, we have shamans, healers, shamans. I suppose in Western culture, the shamans have become the therapists, yeah? And we have shamans, yeah, and indigenous cultures. And it was said that when somebody was spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally sick, they would be taken to the shaman. And any of us who have had addictive behaviors, compulsive behaviors, we were spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically sick. And we're still recovering. And the shaman would ask these questions. And again, the reason why I just say that addictive and compulsive behaviors are such a normal response to trauma. Yeah, because we know that trauma isn't so much what happens to us. You know, if we think of in Buddhism, the first art, the thing that happens. And then the second art is what goes on inside us. Okay. And what goes on inside us is often what we made it mean, and the stories we begin to tell ourselves. And these are the things which make us sick and completely dysregulate ourselves. And the shaman, coming back to the shaman would ask this person, when did you stop singing? Take a moment for you to reflect on this. When did you stop singing? And I don't mean necessarily literally. Maybe some of you literally did stop singing. For me, I see that is, when did we lose our voice? Yeah. When was it when somebody said, shut up or I'll give you something to cry for? Yeah. When was it that, you know, our voice wasn't valued? Yeah. Second question is, when did we stop dancing? And again, we can take this on a literal level. or a metaphorical level. And for me, when I look at this on a metaphorical level, when did we stop playing? When did we lose that play? Was it when we were sexually assaulted or physically assaulted? Yeah. Was it when we had to hide under the bed when adults were fighting? Yeah. When did we stop losing that freedom of play? Yeah. And the third question is, when did you stop being enchanted by your own story? When did you stop being enchanted by your own story? And many of us here would, if I asked how many of you stopped being enchanted by your own story, I'm pretty sure I would see a lot of hands go up. Yeah. And I know sometimes when we came from a dysfunctional background, I was one of those people who said, yeah, I had a happy childhood. I had a great childhood. I had to say that to keep on living, because if I had connected to what had gone on, I wouldn't have survived, because I had definitely lost the enchantment of my own story. And the fourth question is, when did you stop being able to dwell in the sweet territory of silence? Yeah. And we know for many of us, for many people, the reason why many of us picked up was because of that proliferation of thought, that stinking thinking. In fact, some people actually are unable to put what it is down because it's so hard to connect to that stinking thinking. How do we deal with that? How do we block it out? We had found ways to block that stinking thinking out. Yeah. Yeah. When did we stop being able to dwell in a sweet territory of silence? And we definitely don't have that sweet territory of silence when we pick up and we're in that hell realm of addiction. And the question that I add to this list is, when did we stop breathing? Yeah. When did we stop breathing? Again, did we stop breathing through when we were bullied, when we were sexually or physically assaulted? Yeah. And for us to really reflect on this. So again, we could ask ourselves is, when will we start singing again? And I really believe that when we are able to step onto that path of recovery and find a new freedom, that freedom, we do begin to sing again, and we do begin to dance again, and we do begin to be enchanted by our stories, and we do begin to be able to dwell in that sweet territory of silence. That's what freedom from our compulsive behaviors give us. Yeah, that's what freedom gives us. Yeah.